Do you
Okay.
believe, like a lot of people believe, that Stephanie White, the head coach of the Indiana Fever, doesn't like
The Phoenix Mercury versus the Indiana Fever game wasn't just a blowout, and it was a 95-60 wake-up call. Without Caitlin Clark, the Fever didn't just lose, they looked completely exposed. On air, commentators, including Jason Whitlock and his co-hosts, alleged that ideological differences with Clark might drive some of Coach Stephanie White's decisions. We're going to break down the game, the rotations, and the on-air accusations so you can decide if this was bad coaching or something closer to sabotage. And what you'll see from the scoreboard to the bench reactions raises questions that go far beyond one bad night.
A lot of people believe that Stephanie White, the head coach of the Indiana Fever, doesn't like Caitlin Clark.
She's a DEI hire. She worked for ESPN for years, correct, right? And see, I'm under the belief that Caitlin Clark is being sabotaged from the very top because what she represents is good.
Whitlock pointed to one specific rotation as the clearest example of what he's been talking about. Lexi Hull out, Dana Bonner in. On paper, it's a normal substitution. But according to him, Hull isn't just another rotation player. She's one of the few in the locker room viewed as firmly in Clark's corner. Pulling her in a game where the Fever already looked flat, he argued meant removing one of the only steady defense.
Caitlin Clark, like I said, she is really being targeted to the point where you got guys writing she needs to have a civil lawsuit filed against the league. And it all makes sense. There's so much evidence of hatred and so-called racism that they want to put on Caitlin Clark. And so, you know.
They went on to explain why they see it that way. In their framing, Clark isn't just a talented rookie, she's a symbolic figure. The host described her as someone who avoids certain league-driven narratives, a claim they used to argue that some inside the sport might see her as a problem. In their interpretation, she represents good meant she stands outside what they say is the WNBA's preferred image and messaging. That's their read. And they didn't back it with documents or quotes, just their own sense of the culture. Listen to this.
I want to lead you into playing with the devil in his playground, right? So Caitlin Clark represents everything they don't represent, and she won't, it seems to me like she won't budge on promoting any propaganda, any agendas. She won't do it. And so it doesn't fit well with what they promote and what they want. So they try to knock her at every turn. That's why the refs turn a blind eye, because they've been instructed.
With the devil in his playground, right? So Caitlin Clark represents everything they don't represent, and she won't, it seems to me like she won't budge on promoting any propaganda, any agendas. She won't do it. And so it doesn't fit well with what they promote and what they want. So they try to knock her at every turn. That's why the refs turn a blind eye, because they've been instructed. Whitlock pulled in a comparison to Paige Buehr's. It wasn't about stats or skill, but about what he sees as double standards. The allegation was this: both are white and highly skilled. But Booker, who is openly part of the LGBTQ community, is embraced more fully because she aligns with what they claim the league prefers to promote. Clark, in their view, does not and pays for it in coverage and treatment. Again, that's their allegation, not independent proof, and they presented it as commentary for the audience to decide on. Listen to this.
I do believe the league, the DEI, the LGBTQIA plus element of the WNBA, they want to break Caitlin Clark. And until they break her, they're never going to accept her. It's not the fact that she's white, because they love Paige Beckers, because she's on the Alphabet Mafia team.
The talk shifted to who the league elevates and why. With Whitlock hinting ideology might shape coaching choices, Jeep the Vision added that sitting Clark eases opponents, and combined with Whitlock's view could quietly limit her visibility and impact. Whitlock then anchored his whole case to specific coaching choices, the rosters, the substitutions, the timing. He argued they showed intent. In his view, you can see moments where the coach could set Clark up to thrive or keep her away from the center of the action. And lately, it's been too much of the latter.
Like I said, I think the Indiana Fever did a horrible job from the top down. Amber Cox, Kelly Krauskopf have done a terrible job putting the roster together along with Stephanie White. I didn't even like the Stephanie White hire to begin with. I didn't feel that she's a part of the old guard, and the style that Caitlin Clark plays does not fit with what Stephanie White is naturally comfortable with. You know, they say you can teach a fighter to fight a certain way, and they're going to do that until they start getting hit upside the head.
When she got injured, Stephanie White was almost happy, calling it a blessing in disguise. But when the games began, things played out very differently.
The opponent finally gave the Indiana Fever the "I hate white girls, I hate Caitlin Clark, I'm going to destroy the Indiana Fever."
The Fever won 5 straight games, then lost 95-60 to Phoenix. From the bench, their faces told a story. Blank, drained, disconnected. This wasn't a loss you simply shake off. It was the kind that makes you wonder how a steady team could collapse so fast. Remember, after Caitlin Clark's injury, Stephanie White called it a blessing in disguise, saying her absence might help. More ball movement, more chances for others. That theory didn't survive the night. Phoenix didn't just poke holes in it. They tore it to shreds and gave the Fever a harsh reality check.
Yeah, they did a terrible job. I will say, I think last night, the group got humbled and needed to get humbled.
From the opening tip, there was no real contest. This wasn't back and forth hard-fought basketball. It was the Mercury running their sets with confidence, exploiting gaps and forcing the Fever into mistake after mistake. By halftime, the gap felt like a done deal. Every missed Indiana shot became a Phoenix fast break. Every defensive collapse looked even worse on replay. What's been helping the Fever, according to some, is that when Clark is on the floor, opponents treat the game like their Super Bowl, giving their absolute best. Without her, that intensity fades. Whether true or not, that's their interpretation, and they point to past games as proof. Take the Fever's last win without Clark against the Chicago Sky. Many hosts and commentators have dismissed the Sky this season, and the game footage didn't exactly scream high stakes. Same with the Dream. Loose defense, erratic ball handling on both sides, and little crowd energy.
When these teams face the Indiana Fever while Caitlin Clark is playing, it's the Super Bowl. You're getting everybody's best shot. Everybody wants to make a name for themselves beyond their play, meaning I'll make a name for myself by knocking her to the floor or elbowing her eyeball out the socket. Whatever I got to do, that is what they are willing to do when Caitlin Clark is on the team. We have not received, I don't believe, that same effort from these players while she's not there, and we have benefited from playing a lot of terrible teams, as I stated last show. But beyond this game, we were terrible in the Los Angeles Sparks game. You made a late run. Nobody played basketball until you were down 22 with 6 minutes left.
Phoenix was a totally different story. They played with purpose from the jump. They chased down every loose ball, contested every look, and kept their foot on the gas all the way to the buzzer. No coasting, no mercy. They knew Indiana was vulnerable and punished every error.
Kind of effort that Caitlin Clark and the Fever see every night that Caitlin Clark's on the court. DeWanna Bonner, Alyssa Thomas, the Mercury say, "Oh no, we're gonna give this group the same effort that we give when Caitlin Clark's out here." And with the Fever at the end of a 4-game road trip and tired and perhaps feeling a little too good about themselves, they got embarrassed last night.
Frank has said the Fever without Clark lose sharpness in almost every category. More unforced turnovers, more missed rotations, fewer big plays that swing momentum. Watching this game, that argument felt on full display. This didn't look like one star missing. It looked like the team's anchor had been pulled and the whole structure was drifting. By the end, the scoreboard wasn't just a margin, and it was confirmation of how much Clark changes the way teams approach the Fever.
Listen to this.
You didn't know neither one of them until Caitlin Clark came about. We only here because of Caitlin Clark. It's the only reason why we talking about WNBA. You're not going to walk into no bar, no Buffalo Wild Wings, and see them having a WNBA game on. You're not going to walk in no sports bar in the casino. No, it's not.
So, was this about tough matchups and a hot opponent? Or was something else going on? Was something rooted in choices made by the person calling the shots from the sideline? That's where the commentators took the conversation. Next.
Hey man, who are they surrounding Caitlin Clark with? Why aren't they surrounding her with people like Sophie Cunningham, who seem to have the same sort of sexual orientation and love of Taylor Swift, and just they're not surrounding her with that. They're surrounding her with people. DeWanna Bonner. The way DeWanna Bonner played last night, you have to sit there and go, who would put DeWanna Bonner on the same team as Caitlin Clark?
Whitlock pointed to one specific rotation as the clearest example of what he's been talking about. Lexi Hull out, Dana Bonner in. On paper, it's a normal substitution. But according to him, Hull isn't just another rotation player. She's one of the few in the locker room viewed as firmly in Clark's corner. Pulling her in a game where the Fever already looked flat, he argued meant removing one of the only steady defensive anchors on the floor.
Boston has suffered, I would say, the most because she got a lot of easy baskets, but I think it is a flat-out travesty what Stephanie White has done to Lexi Hull. Lexi Hull was a part of the core four to help things turn around last season, and yeah, she shot terrible last night. She's been shooting terrible the last 5 games. But let's really think about it. Lexi Hull earned the right to be a part of the core of this team with how she played last season and with her opportunities in the beginning of the season. DeWanna Bonner comes here, Lexi Hull gets thrown to the back burner.
According to the on-air discussion, Bonner joined the Fever, hoping to give them the spark they needed. And at first, it seemed like she just might. But trouble brewed when she subbed in for Lexi Hull. After that, Lexi never really got her chance to shine again. Not long after, Dana Bonner left the Fever altogether, heading to Phoenix to play alongside her girlfriend.
Dana Bonner quits on the team, takes a max contract, and then leaves. We throw in Lexi Hull in a state of emergency because Sophie Cunningham.
Whitlock also pointed to the matchups during that stretch. He noted that Bonner was brought to Indiana to mentor Hull, and that both, as he put it, are straight white players who fit more closely with Clark's image. To him, that wasn't coincidence, but part of a cultural undercurrent in the league where who you are off the court shapes how you're treated on it. It might have been a matchup mistake, a benching gone wrong, or if you buy Whitlock's theory, I thought something more deliberate. The transcript shows what was said, not proof of intent.
Yeah, it makes no sense unless you had a plan of, hey, look, we got to get Caitlin Clark on board with the movement, with the message. This is a platform to promote the LGBTQ. This is a platform to promote the victimization of Black women. This is a platform to promote feminism. And Caitlin Clark, really, if you just look at her, she wants to hoop. She wants to go to Taylor Swift concerts, and that's about it.
From a basketball standpoint, the on-court result was clear. With Hull out, Indiana's defensive communication slipped. Phoenix moved the ball more freely, got clean looks earlier in possessions, and scored before the Fever defense could set. Adjustments didn't happen quickly enough.